When I was little, my little brother passed away.
Okay.
He was born with heart defects. He lived to be a little over 1, and then he died on Thanksgiving Day.
Ugh.
And so I watched my entire family change.
Yeah.
I watched how grief changed their faces, their tone of voice, their mannerisms, the way they were able to parent for me and just as people in the world.
It all starts with a single question asked to an anonymous caller. What do you think happens when we die? And from there, the conversation goes in completely unexpected directions. Some speak with certainty, others with doubt. Some are still trying to make sense of it all. I'm Zach Ansell, and this is When We Die Talks, a podcast about death, meaning, and how that shapes the way we live. This podcast was born from my own fears around death and the need to talk about it. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I'm glad you're here. This episode is supported by Mnemostheny, a project I've been building alongside this podcast. Mnemostheny is a simple way to tell your story in your own voice. It's a guided, audio-first conversation with me where we capture the parts of your life that matter to you, where you came from, the people who shaped you, the seasons that changed you, and the moments you don't want to lose. It's not therapy and it's not a performance. It's just a real conversation that becomes a private audio keepsake you can share with the people you love or keep for yourself. If you want to learn more, you can find it at mnemostheny.com. That's NEMOSENE.com. Hey, welcome back or welcome here if this is your first time. It's probably pretty obvious at this point that I've decided to switch release days for the podcast. So from here on out, you can expect new episodes to drop on Tuesdays. It just works a little bit better for my week, so if you're used to finding new episodes on Wednesdays, just nudge your expectations by one day. And we're also back after kind of a strange month for the podcast. I took last week off for myself, intentionally stepping away. Was barely on social media, didn't really check anything, and it was exactly what I needed. There's a lot up in the air in my life right now, and sometimes you just need a few days not to think about any of it. I spent some time with my dad, watched some March Madness, ate some good food. It was all good. But enough with the updates, let's talk about this week's caller. They lost their little brother when they were 5 years old. He was born with a heart defect, lived over a year, and died on Thanksgiving Day. And they watched their whole family change because of it. The grief, the instability, the way it shifted everything that came after, including a complicated relationship with their father that never quite recovered. What's interesting is that instead of running from all that, they ran toward it. They trained as a death doula. They became a trauma-informed yoga instructor. They're currently working with survivors of a mass shooting. They're sitting in rooms full of heavy grief. And while they're doing that, they'll still tell you that they're afraid of death. It's a rare thing for me to get on the phone with someone who shares the same fear and turn toward it anyway. All right, let's get into the call. I hope you enjoy.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Good.
You sound great.
Perfect.
How are you doing?
Perfect. Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. It's been a strange start to the year, so I'm doing okay, but I'm excited that we are on the phone and get to chat. I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, so.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, I'm psyched.
Awesome.
I can't wait.
Awesome.
It's so funny because it's really interesting that the first thing you say is, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good. How are you? But honestly, I'm not good.
Okay.
You know what I'm
okay.
saying?
I don't want to say
I'm
good to that, but yeah, I think we need to normalize being because I did the same thing. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. No, I'm actually it's been kind of a weird start. And we need to normalize that.
A really weird start.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Well, I'm sorry that you haven't been doing great, but hopefully we can have some fun in this conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll solve each other's.
Overall.
Go ahead.
Overall, I'm doing okay. I think it's just the general state of the world.
Yeah.
And I live in the frozen tundra of Maine, so it's been cold. We're in misery time up here.
Yeah, so it's hibernation mode where we shouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah, working hard on that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wish that we could solve the world's problems in this call. I don't think we're going to, but you never know where it's going to go. But I'm excited to chat with you. And so maybe just to kind of kick things off a little bit and just kind of briefly, because we'll dive into more of this in kind of the full part of the conversation. I'm just very curious why you would even want to jump on the phone with me and chat about this.
Well, I think my entire life I've been sitting with like a little bird called death on my shoulder. I've been fascinated, intrigued by it, terrified of it, like anxiety ridden about it, to the point where I just started stepping forth into learning more about it. I think the same thing that I've heard you say on some of your podcasts, and the whole reason why you started this podcast, right? Like you were sort of having anxiety about death and what's going on. So I think the reason why talking to you about it and hearing that there's somebody out there in the world that's like, okay, I'm gripping the floor right now. I'm going to die.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
And I think the only way that I can kind of walk through this anxiety and be able to live my life is if I start opening up the conversation, or at least the education, to understand what it's all about on whatever level. I'm not a religious person. My thoughts and feelings, beliefs, they all come from like my own weird world, you know, my own weird inner world.
Which makes sense.
So why do I want to talk to you? Because I am fascinated. I think we have a similar feeling that lives inside of our bodies about it.
Yeah.
And I would love and really, really honor normalizing talking about death in our death phobic culture.
Yeah,
super
absolutely.
important. Like,
absolutely.
We can't embrace it. We can't do it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have some things that I would say off of that. And maybe I'll just briefly, because I'm like, then we'll get into the full conversation and we won't talk about some other things before we get into it. But I think that aligns very much with, you know, my journey, as you mentioned, and just having that kind of feeling of, I can't keep avoiding this because that's not working. So I might as well try to figure out what I can about this fear, this anxiety. So I would say it's pretty uncommon that I get on the phone with someone who shares that same sentiment. A lot of people that I talk to are, let's just say, more comfortable with death. And so it isn't very often that I get to talk to someone else who also is kind of, gripping the floor, like,
gripping
just like
the floor.
like it's interesting. So I'm excited to chat with you. We'll get into more of that in a second, but maybe we can get to know you, obviously the anonymity and everything, but maybe get to know you just a little bit. You already kind of loosely answered, and I don't even know if you need to answer it any more than you already did, but usually I ask, where are you calling from? And then what's your favorite book and why? So you kind of said Maine. If you want to say a city too, awesome. If you don't, that's totally fine too.
I live in very rural Maine, middle Maine, mid-coast Maine.
Okay.
So we're in the throes of what I like to call open vein season, where I would rather open a vein than step outside. It's so cold. And when I was a younger woman, that was okay. You know, like I was up for the challenge. Getting a little older and like, all right, this is cool. Not really.
It's an experience.
And let's see. Okay, so I'm from Maine, and a book. I don't know. I attach to things like very tactilely, like so with my hands and the words that I read. So it's kind of a combination. If I'm talking about like my favorite book, there's two. And there's a third volume, but it's volume 1 and 2 of the Dictionary of Mythology, Folklore, and Symbols by Gertrude Jones. And I've only been able to find the first 2 volumes, and it's just very old and crispy book, and the pages have a smell. And it's also a reference manual, which feels really sexy to me. There's just something so, I don't know. There's something about a reference manual that just gets me.
Yeah.
I have a second book because I kind of thought you were going to talk to me about this. So I was like, I'm going to be mindful and think of something here. Because there's so many. As everybody has like 45,000, right? But,
totally.
I just read this book called Die Wise. A Manifesto for Sanity and Soul.
Great book.
Yes.
Great book.
And it was like a job getting through it. Like I felt like I was over Jenkinson's tone by like quarter of the way through. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, how many pages is this? I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But now I find that I don't know that I absorbed it all. Like as I was reading it, it was like a marathon. I'm like, oh, I just keep reading and reading.
Yeah.
But I look back on it all the time. It's like I'm always referencing his really cool quotes and his very like boots on the ground approach to viewing end of life.
Totally.
Very cool.
He has a very, I would say what feels like to me a very different approach than a lot of people do. And then writes in a very, I guess, poetic way, because it is beautiful. But yeah, it is. I read it, I don't know, probably about a year ago. And maybe this is, although I do not need to be adding more books or rereading books, but this might be a recommendation for me to go back and kind of just like And maybe it's just like flipping through to random pages and being like, okay, yeah,
That's
just like
the thing.
going back to like, I don't know. I think there's something cool about going back to a book that you've read before and just flipping to a random page and being reminded of, oh yeah, okay, I remember this. Because that is a wonderful,
Yeah, I
wonderful
went
book.
through it. I turned out a lot of corners while I was reading it. And
Yeah.
so when I knew your call was coming in, I was like, ooh, I think that might be my book. Like, you know, as far as a book that's really fun to talk about and is on topic.
And it's definitely one that everybody should read.
I was looking back at the little turned corners and I was like, oh yeah, this book is gold.
Yeah.
I'm glad I turned those corners. You know?
Totally.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's so much more that I could say because that book is wonderful and he is a very wonderful and unique human, but we're not here to talk about him. We're here to talk about you and to dive into kind of your thoughts and everything. So I think we can jump into the main part of the conversation and kick things off with what do you think happens when we die?
Well, first off, I think that the body always knows what to do when we die. I don't know why I think that. I'm trained as a death doula, but I've found that going and attending another person's end of life isn't something that I've done or have experienced.
Yeah.
So what happens when we die? I'm going to try to stay on topic and not go off into the
Hey, that's what this is about too. You know, it's all about the tangents and the weird places we go. So I'll try to
hustler over there.
Yeah, I'll try to kind of guide the ship a little bit, but you know, who knows? It's more fun that way.
Let me see. I think that when we die and on a very like boots on the ground kind of physical biology way, I think our bodies just know what to do.
Yeah.
We have so many different ways that our life can come away from us, and our bodies just, I believe, are really built to know what to do. I was so fearful about it being painful.
Yeah.
Getting in an accident and it hurting. And then I was like, oh, but I have this thing called adrenaline, you know, and I have these other things in my body that will help, you know, to make me feel better and more at ease. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, so I got to know like the different stages of death and just from reading, you know, and talking to other people. And then it's like, so then what happens? Like we die and we start to decompose and all the things happen in the physical world. But like, is there a soul? Like, does something happen to that after we die? Like to me, that seems like a really far reach, you know, like, I'm sorry, I'm also a Reiki master, which is crazy because literally I'm questioning this idea of spirit and soul, like all the time. It's like, what is up? It's so dualistic, you know?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Okay. This is crazy. So I have a couple ideas. Like, I believe that our existence isn't necessarily a spiritual one. I feel like it's very, very biological, very scientific. I almost feel like it's a space-time thing. Like when we die,
okay.
Like this may sound completely crazy, but I'm just going to say it. I'm anonymous, right? I think that we live in these very delicate dimensional kind of tendrils, and that we cross over into new ones. Like we are, as energetic beings, we cross into and out of other dimensional beings, other dimensional spaces. But to us, it's kind of all the same place. So that if we die, I never really said this out loud. I can make sense of it when I see it in my brain. You know, it's all graphed out in my head. But like, seriously, maybe when we die, it's like having a dream. And when we come into our waking from this dream of death, we come into being in a new space. Maybe we look the same and maybe we don't, but maybe we come into this new space without trauma, right? So we come into this world very traumatically.
Yeah.
And like just being born is so crazy, and birth and death are like the yin and the yang, you know? So maybe when we're dying, there's that sense of, there's not trauma there.
Yeah.
There's a sense of relief or release.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still shittily scared of it. Like,
I
don't know, but like, body, I just think, I don't believe in the pearly gates. I don't believe in gods or deities. I have seen and experienced lots of very mystical, interesting things, ghosts or feelings or very universal kind of synchronicities with numbers or patterns, but that's what we do. We always seek out what that pattern is, you know? So my brain is just super wired to find those patterns. And when I do, I see dimensions in them. I see our life now and our afterlife. It all sort of seems to fit on the same sort of dimensional or universal plane, but I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it past that. Holy shit. That's hard. That's weird. That's strange.
That's okay. And that's
saying
that's
the words
part
outside of my body. I'm like, so, hey, girl.
and maybe this is,
padded room lately.
you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but you said you're still scared. But has this helped at all? You know, like there's so many questions that I have, you know, of your death doula training. It sounds like you're journeying kind of like I am, obviously in different ways. How have these experiences and this kind of theory that you're working with, how does that work with your fear? You know, does that help balance it out? Does that create more fear, anxiety, or, you know, yeah.
I think in this body, in this world, in my life now, I'm wired for anxiety. Like my brain is wired for anxiety. That's sort of, I'm not medicated. I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm freaking out all the time or my heart's jumping out of my chest 24/7. But definitely wired as a super sensitive person. So because I am so anxious, that rides over even into, I get anxiety if, say, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm not driving, and say my husband's driving, and then he's like, oh, I have to stop by like Napa and pick up a car part on the way. My body gets anxious. It's like as soon as I'm off course from where my brain was going, I get this like spike of anxiety. And I think it's based in fear, you know, and of change. And so I think that fear is fear of change. The fear of death is fear of change. That makes sense to me, you know.
And
but
losing control. Yes.
I mean, so when I was, if I can just sort of digress a little bit.
You
here,
you can go wherever you want now.
So when I was little, my little brother passed away.
Okay.
He was born with a heart defect. He had open heart surgery. He was very ill. He lived to be a little over 1, and then he died on Thanksgiving Day. Ugh. And so I watched my entire family, like I was a little girl, I was like 5, but I watched my entire family like change. Yeah. Like I watched how grief changed their faces, changed their tone of voice, their mannerisms, the way they were able to parent for me, the choices that they made moving forward as parents and just as people in the world. And I think that instilled an immense amount of fear. Because
a lot of caution.
I was too young to have like these feelings of sadness. Yeah. When he passed away, you know, it was.
Yeah, at that point you don't really have a baseline really at 5. I mean, if you remember anything, it's, you know, little things, right? But barely anything. So you don't really have a baseline before of this is normal and this is not normal, and normal is probably not a great word for it, but you know, this is everything after that was basic. Like you didn't have a really.
Well, when I think about my brother, the first remembrance I have is I was across the street at my grandmother's house and looking out her bedroom window across to our house, and the emergency people were carrying his little body out of the house. He was blue, and I saw him. And then my cousin was with me, and she screamed bloody murder. And I think at that point, I just sort of shut down. You know what I mean? It was like that. Okay, well, I'm going to go into freeze fawn mode now. And then I got this huge burst of energy, probably just because that's what happens to the body after it goes through something major. Yeah. And I just started to play, just started to run and yell and play and just burn energy. Yeah. But I'm really hyper aware of every single thing that happened from the time I saw him carried out of the house to the rest of that Thanksgiving day, which was, you know, pretty depressing. Yeah. Not a great Thanksgiving for sure. For sure. So I think that a lot of my death anxiety comes from knowing what grief does to people. Yeah. I work right now. I'm also a yoga instructor, and I specialize in trauma-informed yoga. And I'm currently working with a population of survivors from the latest mass shooting. Oh, wow. So I'm really able to sit in spaces of heavy grief with people, and I guess that's where my death doula training came into play, right? Well, some people went off to volunteer at hospice, and I was like, I think it's grieving and taking care of the living where I'm most useful. You know, taking care of this living space so that I can move through it, knowing that death isn't going to get off of my shoulder. Yeah. So it's always going to be there. Yeah. But if I'm moving in the space of accepting the grief that other people have and to just leave space and hold space with loving kindness for people to be able to change with their grief, that's huge. So that's sort of the work that I've been doing in this field of death and dying and grieving.
Yeah.
And it's been
You're doing way more important work than me.
Oh, I don't think so, Zach. I don't think so. I mean,
it's all important.
Please don't see it as like, as I'm up on some pedestal. I'm not. I'm like, I'm struggling just all the time, looking in books, trying to learn. Oh my God. Speaking of learn, I listen to so many of your podcasts.
Oh gosh.
And I love them. Thank you so much. I know. I listen to all your podcasts.
You're so kind. I'm just me trying to figure my own thing out. And in general, I think everything that I'm doing is like almost just a message to myself. I'm talking to these people and I'm putting it out there so that I can listen to it again if I want. And if other people get something out of it, awesome. So very kind of you to say, but this is not about me. This is about you. I think one of the interesting things that you kind of put forward into the conversation right out of the bat, and so I'm probably going to keep coming back to it a little bit, but you are holding space for people who are going through extreme grief, right? Like
and trauma, traumatic.
Grief. That's the better word for it. How do you hold that space? My version to some extent is jumping on the phone call, and sometimes it is incredibly heavy and I show up and I do my best or whatever, but I'm curious, how do you find courage to show up to hold space for people who are talking about this thing and intimately connected with death, which is something that you are afraid of?
I think in the space that I show up in for my clients with trauma-informed yoga is that I have yoga as sort of the tendril, sort of the teaching point, the elephant in the room, so to speak. So I can teach just a very basic restorative yoga class, but I can just instill kind words of allowing people to be in their own space.
Yeah.
So I'm holding their space. I'm holding the space so they can be in the space and they can let go and release anything they want without judgment.
Yeah.
With nothing. It's like the safest space I try to help nurture. I think that having the tool, which is kind of like the tool of movement with yoga, breath work, and meditation. Yeah. I will sit in that space with clients and I'm also doing the work.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess like, wow, that's a cool realization. It's like, I'm also getting something really beneficial out of it. Sometimes people share with the experiences that they went through. And I thought it would create more panic inside of me or fear inside of me about what could happen. But instead, it feels so incredibly human to share space with a vulnerable person who is experiencing real feelings in the world. It becomes so much bigger than me, like feeling pissy or sad about like, oh no, I'm going to die someday. It's like,
absolutely.
Wow, you just watch somebody like get blown to pieces in front of you. Like, are you okay? You know what I mean? Like it really starts to pull things into perspective. Like we're not actually dead until we're dead.
Yeah.
We actually are alive all the way until we die, you know? And who knows for sure what happens afterwards. I'd love to think that it's something very cool, sci-fi, like we just keep existing, you know, we keep existing. Or when I try to make sense of us coming back and like into the planet, I'm like, we're already the planet, you know, we're already here on and in the planet. We are the planet, you know, we are connected to all living things. So to die, maybe we see new things that we can't see with our human eyes on Earth. Maybe if we have shed the skin, almost like a metamorphosis, we get to see maybe the different layers and dimension or the different colors or sounds or shapes or I don't know. I want it to be fantastical though.
Yeah. And maybe it will be. Fingers crossed. You said something really, really wonderful. And I would say it echoes some of what I've felt too, but it's when you hold space for others, which is what this has become, you know, and maybe not on every single call, but on a lot of calls, there's people that have grief and holding space. It's almost like there is this like symbiosis or this like cooperative thing that happens that the other person is also kind of holding space for my fear. And that kind of sounds like what you're saying is, you're in this space, but you're also healing from it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing about what we can do as humans when we actually sit down and talk and like have meaningful conversations instead of bickering about, and not saying that politics isn't important. And we're not going to devolve into politics because we know how that can devolve so fast.
No.
And that's not a conversation that I think we need to have more of. We already have that conversation so much, but it's wonderful that we can come together and help heal each other in spaces like that because it's just humans showing up for humans.
Yeah, I think that's just it. It's compassion. We feel that in our energy too. You know, like you feel that when you walk into a room, you can tell if everyone's having a good time, or you can see who the pissed off person is poking in the corner, or, like we all read each other all the time. So it's a really beautiful thing to share space with vulnerability, with authenticity, with humanity.
Yeah, those little things that we're led to believe that don't exist anymore.
Well, we're all just hiding under our rocks.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Some days it's easier that way. If you're up for it, I mean, I'm curious about long-term grief with your brother and like how you've seen that shape your family. I feel like that's a jump in a completely different direction, but I think that's also a very interesting thing to talk about is what does that look like? And what have you seen, around your family?
Because death and grief are going hand in hand.
Yeah.
This is a all in one thing, Well, my family broke up. Like my father he did a lot of drugs. We lived in an RV. Like we used to live like by the water. It was really beautiful. But after that family trauma, we moved into an RV. My dad was like a self-proclaimed rock star. Him and all of his rock star buddies, we went on tour, So we had it was the 70s RV army traveling up and down Route 1 to Florida.
That's an experience.
All the different gigs along the way. Yeah. So I was just an only child at that point. I had a dog. I spent a lot of time by myself. My mom was really sad and she was there. She homeschooled me, but she was a different person. She was like depressed. You know? She was just a different woman.
Yeah.
In trauma and grief. And there wasn't like you could call a hotline,
Yeah.
It was kind of a different time.
It was absolutely. Maybe it's because I've started creating this in this space, but like it really feels like grief and trauma are like almost brand new words in the past like 5 or 10 years. It's like we didn't really, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, that's grief or that's trauma, but it wasn't actually something that was discussed. Like it feels very new in a lot of ways, which is very, very strange.
To be able to apply it to like, oh, I'm having a problem doing this now. Oh, that's because you didn't release this grief or you're grieving over that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was absolutely a different time in the 70s. Ride. Yeah.
But I guess like overall, I kind of watched the general mental health of my family unit break down.
Yeah.
And eventually my parents divorced. My dad moved south back to southern U.S. where he was from. And my mom stayed here in Maine. And I think it mirrored a lot of instability for me. I depended on myself so much growing up. Just it's hard to be little and witness family going through something that doesn't even have a name yet, like grief or trauma.
Yeah, totally.
And then just sort of be on the receiving end of it all. Nobody was like abusive or terrible or anything like that, but there was definitely some neglect there,
Yeah.
Like, there was definitely I wish this kid would just go in the other room and shut up, kind of vibes. And there were also a lot of partying, a lot of drunk people, a lot of drugs that would come and go out of my life when I was a little kid. So that it became very normalized. And as I became older, I noticed that things that were really taboo seemed really normal to me. Not to say that I was doing them, but they were normalized to me. So that the choices I was making weren't based in grounded decisions.
Yeah.
I'm 56 now, so I don't know what I'd say, but anyway, I'm 56 now. And I've definitely come around to be able to recognize these things. And that doesn't mirror in my life anymore that I can see. I'm very hyper aware of like how this grief and trauma has affected me. And moving on even more forward, I think that it changed my father in a way that made him really non-present in my life in particular. Even if he was around, he wasn't around, he was really checked out. And so I think in my mind, I created a reality where because he lived far away. I was his daughter, and I was really important. And, I had this whole idea of what our relationship was. But the reality of it was that he never really showed up. Mm. So about 6 years ago, he and his wife came to visit, and it was a really strange visit, and I couldn't quite pick up on the energy. It was really odd. A lot of weird conversations about end of life, actually. Like, if I were to die, would you take care of my spouse, kind of stuff, and I was like, wow, okay, like, that's a big conversation. Yeah. And then, like, let's have them, I'm all for it. Like, let's talk about what's going to happen.
Had you already done your death doula training by then, or no?
I was currently doing death doula training.
Okay, cool. So you were like, all right, perfect. This lines up with what I'm learning about and everything. Let's chat.
Totally into it. Yeah. I was like, do you have your paperwork? Let's talk about last will and testament. Let's do this. You have a plot. You have, like, just all those things. And then after, how do you want your future to look as a widow or a widower? Like, how do you want that to be for you? And I don't know if that was intimidating to them, because I'm all like, let's do this. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Like, I'm not sitting in the corner crying. I'm like, we're alive. We're going to deal with this, and it's going to help us in the end, And a really petty fight got started by the stepmother. The father hopped in. There was a rift. They left in the middle of the night. And I wonder now, telling you the story, if it didn't have something to do with the fact that having to come around to manage their end of life means that there has to be some sort of recognition of my brother's end of life. Maybe to my father. Yeah. I'm not sure. But telling you this now, it sort of brings it around for me a little bit. So I just want to acknowledge it. But yeah, they left in the middle of the night. They didn't call me for 3 days. And then I got a text, and it said, don't ever contact me again.
Wow.
And that was that. And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me right now? And he was just like, said I was a disappointment to him. They left. I haven't spoken to either of them since.
Wow.
And so
that's wild.
Really feel like it's interesting that you would ask about what happened after. I wonder if that's the story you were looking for when you asked what happened after.
I wasn't necessarily looking for anything, because I don't know, but I mean, that's very, that's wild. I mean, and life is so complicated, right? I mean, I was definitely not expecting that story. I mean, I feel like there are so many twists and turns throughout that story. And so that's another interesting thing about kind of grief that happens in life too, right? Where we like lose people before they're even gone.
Yeah, that's been a big one for me. I really have been struggling with. I had a friend who did some energy work with me, and she's like, what happens if he dies? What are you going to do? You're going to feel guilty for the rest of your life. And I was like, why do you get to assign that to me? Like, what if I don't? Like, what if I don't feel bad? Like, what if I've said my goodbyes? What if it's okay?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of I struggled with it for a couple years. I thought about it a lot.
And not surprising at all.
I've come to this idea, where I'm just like, no, I'm okay. Like, I don't actually have to have full responsibility for the life and death of my father.
Yeah.
It's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to live and be well and be honest and,
Yeah, and I think that's...
not put up with people's shit.
Yeah. And I think that's such an interesting place, because I think sometimes that can come off as being selfish. And I'm saying this from my personal experience. It's the people pleaser mentality, right? Of, oh, I should, fix this because, it'll be better for them. But there is a point where you have to step back and say, well, what's good for me? And to your point, I think you said it was your friend, but who knows what it's going to be like when he dies? There's no way of knowing until that moment, right?
We are all doing the best we can. I really feel that way.
I do too.
Like, all of this is leading me to think about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right? So basically it's like, do I forgive him? Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, why not? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But forgiveness is such a loaded word. Like, just because I forgive, I'm forgiving myself for not feeling poorly about our breakup, but where I was feeling really bad, and I've worked really hard to come into a good center about it. And done a lot of meditation about it, and I'm in an okay place with it. You know what I'm saying? So forgiveness, I'm okay. Do I want to try to figure out how to have more of a relationship? Not really.
Yeah.
You know, like actually not at all. Like, do I want to answer the call on Christmas? Fuck no, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm all set.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's fine.
Because
we're good.
I think, and again, this is not a therapy session because I don't know anything, but like
why not?
you have a pattern, you know, going back to your patterns. It's like it's not like this was a one-off occurrence in terms of he was amazing my entire life and did all these amazing things. Right. And then this one time he blew up and then I'm not forgiving him and this and that. Like that's a different scenario. It's very interesting. I had another thought, but I lost it somewhere.
Oh shit.
If it was good, then I'll remember it. If it wasn't, then it wasn't great.
Have you ever had that feeling where all of a sudden you really just understand that you're going to die all at once, like in a very real way?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you have, because I think it's part of my anxiety too. It's like I'll come to this point where all of a sudden it's like crushing out of the blue. I'm like, holy fucking shit, I'm dying. I'm going to die, you know, and I panic. It's like, what the fuck have I got? What?
Yeah.
Like, nothing
I think
even
those
matters. Like, what am I even doing? You know?
I think those were what I kind of called like existential attacks were. And I still have them.
Void, you know?
Yeah, I still have every now and then kind of maybe mini ones, but I was having some like pretty aggressive where it just like everything felt really, really heavy. And it was just like, shit, this is going to happen. You probably did a better job of describing it, but I still feel like it's one of those things that I don't know if I can even put into words what it's felt like. That really is what kind of kicked off the journey.
Like a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
It just feels like a lot of swearing.
I mean, it's probably me just saying fuck over and over and over and over and over again for like 20 minutes, you know, under my breath, or if there even is kind of like a pattern breath at all. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of how that journey went. But I do have one last question for you. What's one thing you still want to experience in this lifetime? Just like an experience? However you want to. I'm not going to even try to. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm an adventure motorcyclist. I just sold 2 of my smaller bikes and bought a Bonneville 1200 Black. And what I would like to do is I would like to take that motorcycle and I would like to travel across Canada and spend as much time in Canada on that motorcycle as I can because I'm so close. There's no reason not to. Yeah. And I would also, on the lines of motorcycles, I would love to motorcycle from Lisbon, Portugal, south, and then up and around the Mediterranean over to Italy, to the motherland. Yeah. So that sounds awesome. Those are 2 things that are on my bucket list. I'm sure. Yeah. Definitely on my bucket list. That sounds awesome. And definitely, I kind of say this to everybody, but like when you do that, please let me know because those sound like amazing adventures. I will let you know. Every year I go off, my husband and I get on bikes and we go on a long journey. So nice. We're working on getting to Europe, but for now we just try to kick it up to Canada and whenever we can when the weather is nice. Yeah. Well, if you make it all the way across Canada and then come down into Portland, let me know. And Are you in Portland? Yeah, Portland, Oregon. Yeah. You're in Portland, Oregon? Yep. Yes. Yeah, you might see me in Portland this year. You never know. Yeah, let me know. It'd be great to meet in person. I'll let you know. For sure. Well, yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad that we were able to do this. And you're one of the earlier applicants. And so I think all I had for you, for the more recent application, I have people jot down a sentence or two about, what do you want to talk about? Just to kind of have an idea of like what I'm coming into. But I still love doing these ones where I have no idea what we're going to talk about because it's just the complete mystery. And so, I mean, there are so many different elements and we went so many different ways. And so, yeah, thank you for being willing to share and open up. I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful for it. Thank you. Thank you so much for the time. Yeah. Well, that was great. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I just poured my guts out anonymously. Yeah, which is awesome. I think. I don't know. People keep on telling me they like it. So. I don't know. I always feel weird about it, but I'm glad that people continue to want to do it and are willing to do it. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Zach. All right. Take care. You too. Bye-bye. Bye. This call is about someone who's carrying real grief grief that started when they were 5 years old and watched their family change in ways they couldn't fully understand yet. They will tell you that they're still afraid of death. They describe that fear as a fear of change, of the unknown, and yet did the death doula training anyway. They became the trauma-informed yoga instructor anyway. They're sitting in rooms right now with people who have experienced unimaginable loss, and they're holding space for all of it. And they're holding that space for all of it while still carrying their own. I find that genuinely remarkable. One thing I really love that our caller said, and I've been thinking about a lot, we're not actually dead until we're dead. We're actually alive all the way until we die. And I think in the middle of a conversation about fear and loss and all the things we can't control, that landed differently than it might have otherwise. Before we wrap up, I do want to be honest with you for a second because that's kind of the whole point of this project. March is a strange month for me. Last year around this time, I got into a real lull with the project, questioning whether to keep going, whether it was worth it, what it even was. And after I got through that period, I figured out the anonymous format. The first anonymous call happened April 18th last year. So there's something about this time of year that seems to shake things loose for better or for worse. This year, there's been a lot going on. Jackson, my 18-year-old dog, has been having a lot more ups and downs. I've been trying to get Mnemosyne off the ground. And there's just a lot in my life that is uncertain right now. I don't have a lot of clarity. So I took the week off partly because I needed to stop trying to figure it out for a little while, and partly to avoid some burnout. But then I sat down to edit this call, and I just got pulled right back in. It reminded me why I love doing this. I don't exactly know what this project is yet or what it's building towards, but when I'm in the middle of one of these conversations or inside the editing of one, it feels like something that matters, and maybe that's enough for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of When We Die Talks. These conversations don't offer answers, but they do open space. Space to reflect, to feel less alone, and maybe to see things a little bit differently than before. If you'd like to explore your own beliefs out loud, you can apply to be an anonymous caller at whenwedietalks.com. And if a full call feels like too much, the voicemail is always open. Leave a message at 971-328-0864 and share whatever death has stirred in your life. Listener support truly helps keep this project going. If you'd like to support the podcast, you'll find a link in the show notes. And as always, please like, share, and follow. Every bit makes a difference. Until next time, have a good life.